All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast. On today's episode, we have already hit March. That's a little crazy that, the days are moving right along, man. This is insane. So we're already into March. So obviously we will look at the March schedule. Pretty interesting, as they all are. And we will play a game of What If, which sounds exactly like it means. Like, what if... Um, All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. On today's episode, we will be discussing the March schedule, very interesting to look at, and playing a fun game of What If. And we have a handful of questions. I think we'll get to all of them, but kind of just some... I don't want to say bizarre. They're not bizarre. I mean, I think some of them are very real questions on the what if section of things. So, first things first, thank you for making this your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. Follow the show on social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And follow the show on our YouTube channel over on YouTube. Hit subscribe and get notified when a new show goes live. All right, Mr. Sullivan. Yes, it's tough to believe, but we are already into the month of March. That groundhog who I don't even remember I think he saw it. So we had six more
weeks of winter. I'm in Pennsylvania. I should know.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. And for a moment there, I was reading an article and about the groundhogs and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another one that happens in Jersey. There's another groundhog that does the same exact thing that Punxsutawney does. And I was just reading this article, and that groundhog died the night before they were supposed to do it. So I'm like,
he knew too much.
Oh man, I'm like, we are screwed for this winter. I can't remember what his name is, but you could look it up if you wanted. But for a moment, I thought it was Punxsutawney. I'm like, oh no, we are really screwed. But it doesn't matter. Neither here nor there. We are getting towards the end of the winter season, and we are getting into not the meat of the NHL schedule, but we are in that.
Yeah.
But we're into March, and March is always, fun. You have the trade deadline coming up towards the end of it. And there's some interesting games for the Avs. And, with the schedule, like it has been the past couple of months, a lot of games to be had for the Avs. So we'll start there. And, we'll start, there's a total of, for home games, 7 home games, and for away games you got 4, 5, 6, 8 away games, so almost split down the middle. But the thing that stands out to me, 2 things stand out to me for the March schedule. One is you're not playing a lot of division games. You're playing a grand total of 2 division games, both on the road. One is actually Thursday at Arizona, and the other is March 27th at Minnesota. And that's it. For the Avs, I don't think that matters that much because, you're in the driver's seat in the division. You don't need to make up ground.
No.
But for other teams that are trying to make up ground on you, they can't do it against you. They're going to have to do it against, their own schedule and leapfrog the teams in front of them, basically. So,
and it's hard.
Games, it's not a lot.
It's hard for those teams in the division to hope to leapfrog the Avs when they're not playing division teams, and the teams that they are playing are a lot easier than what you would have to face in the division.
Yeah.
Looking at you, San Jose.
Right. And I mean, it's going to be tough for anybody to catch the Avalanche anyway, as it is. As we are recording this on Monday night, Avs are 12 points up on Minnesota. So is Minnesota playing tonight? No, they're not. So that's not going to change. Nobody in the division is playing tonight, actually. So, the division is not going to change. So it's gonna be tough for anybody in the division to catch them anyway.
Yeah.
The thing that the other thing that stands out to me in this in this month of games is you play Calgary not
Mm-hmm.
once, not twice, 3 times. So all of your games against Calgary this year are in this month, and they're pretty spaced out. It's not like you have a back-to-back and a home and home or anything like that. You are playing them twice at home and once in Calgary. The first time you're playing them is this week on Saturday. The second time is March 13th, which is a Sunday. And then you are playing them at the end of the month on March 29th.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of like once in the beginning, once in the middle, once at the end. And that's a team that you, at this point in the season, this is not in March.
Yeah.
Both of these teams know where they are right now.
Mm-hmm.
Calgary is on fire.
Yes.
And, that's no pun intended there. But you want to, those are going to be 3 games a lot of people are going to be viewing and how those two teams play against each other, because that very well could be a Western Conference final.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Calgary, other than like the understood, like the Avalanche or the juggernaut, everybody's kind of gotten kind of complacent and just kind of, it's an understood. Calgary is the hottest team in the NHL right now. And just the whole put it on a poster, Nathan MacKinnon, Johnny Hockey, this is your game tonight. You're getting eyeballs. And we talk about statement games all the time. The Avalanche just went through that with Vegas. Calgary is definitely a measuring stick statement series, like a 3-game series, both home and away. How the Avalanche fare against Calgary, I'm excited to see that matchup.
Yeah. It's like we said, people are going to be watching those, and it's going to get tagged as that. For all 3 of those games, is going to get tagged as this a Western Conference final, and it very well could be. I mean, like you said, as hot as the Avalanche have been, the argument can be made that Calgary is the hottest team right now. I think they're 9-1-0 in their last 10. Yeah, they are. But they are now 6 points up on Vegas. And actually, the Kings are in a better position than Vegas is. The Kings are only 3 points behind Calgary, but Calgary has 2 games in hand on the Kings. So they're good. They're a good team ever since they made that trade. And yeah, you're excited to see these two teams go up against each other. That's going to be a lot of fun. Good.
And we get to see that the Los Angeles team as well in March. And they're sneaky good.
Yeah.
Like they've always given us problems because you kind of overlook them. This year, there's a reason to look at the Kings, and they could be a problem next year. Like this is one of those teams that they're building it the right way.
Yeah. Yeah, you do play them. You play a lot of Pacific teams this month. You got Calgary. My cats are going crazy.
Kings fans.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Calgary, the Kings, the Sharks twice. Yep, you have the Sharks twice. Edmonton, Vancouver. So you're playing like, and you just played Vegas at the end of February. So it's like you're getting all of your Pacific games in the month of March. You also play the Islanders twice, which once is tonight. You play Philly. You play the Devils. I mean, and we already said you play Arizona. It's a favorable schedule for the Avalanche outside of the 3 Calgary games. If you want to throw LA in there, if you want to, Edmonton is up and down, but that's going to be exciting because it's McKinnon and McDavid. And you are playing Carolina too. Carolina is obviously one of the better teams in the league. You're playing them next Thursday on March 10th. So that's when the Avs go on a mini East Coast swing, which, oh, by the way, Mr. Sullivan and I will be attending. So next Monday, you're not going to the Monday game, right?
I'm not going to be in New York.
Okay, so I will be going to the Monday game, the Islanders and Avalanche on Long Island. And then the very next day, it's the Islanders in New Jersey against the Devils. And both Kyle and I along with some other familiar faces, will
Mm-hmm.
be there. I think Mr. Adam is going to make the trek on down.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to watch that. So that'll be fun. So follow on Twitter because I'm sure there's be some fun moments being posted from that game. Yeah,
That's right. You will have both of us for meeting face to face for the first
that's
time
true.
at an Avalanche game. So
That is
the
true.
hockey gods will be smiling on that game.
Exactly. Uh, so all in all, what would you think? Would be a successful month of March record wise? You're playing 15 games, a lot of them favorable. What are you looking at?
If I'm looking at this schedule in my burgundy and blue glasses, I would expect this March schedule to mimic the January record.
Mm.
Like the Avalanche they're putting out the performance where they could do it easily. But you also know that they can step back and let you down in a game. Where is the Boston game in this schedule? It might be that Carolina game.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always
So,
tough. Yep, you're right.
but honestly, realistically, like speaking as a true Avalanche fan, they should walk out of this with maybe one or two regulation losses. Like that's
That's
honestly
that's a
that's the
tough
level the
prediction.
Avalanche are that's the level that the Avalanche are playing at, and it's what you expect. Like they're still sitting on 10 losses. We're talking about it's March already,
Right.
but they got 10 regulation losses.
Which is incredible. I know.
Yeah.
And it's tough to go and predict like, oh, you can sweep a month. Like I can't go that far. You have to assume that, like you said, there's going to be not a Bruin style of game. You don't want them to play that type of game, but just losses. You would have to think
Mm-hmm.
there are a few losses mixed in, and maybe ones you won't expect. Now
Mm-hmm.
they only have one back to back this entire month. That's nice. That is the two that I will be attending, the
Mm-hmm.
Islanders and Devils. That's the only back to back. They have 3 sections of the month where they have 2 days in a row off. That's a plus because these schedules, you're playing a lot of games in a short amount of time. I'm not saying you're going to be completely well rested, but getting an extra day off is like getting a week off at this point in the season. I don't know, man. I think playing Calgary 3 times. I can't assume you're going to beat them all 3 times. Let's just say you win the 2 at home. The home team takes care of business. All right. I mean, where is the outright struggles? Yeah, you would have to say the Carolina game because that's in Carolina on the East Coast. And then other than that, man, I mean, your tough division game is Minnesota. That's in Minnesota. That's always tough. Yeah, man. I mean, you look at it and you're like, yeah, on paper, the Avs should only lose maybe 1 or 2 games in this
Mm-hmm.
month. But God, that is a big ask of a team. So we'll
This
see.
is it would have been bold to say in November. It would have been bold to say in December. This Avalanche team has month after month surpassed all of our expectations. Like
Mm,
honestly, I would not have anticipated this Avalanche team looking like this at this point.
mm,
So now you're just kind of playing off what they've already shown you. Like, okay, I've doubted you all this time. Continue what you're doing. And if
mm.
continuing what you're doing is putting off like one regulation loss, okay, I'm cool with that. Keep going.
Well, this kind of leads into our next segment in the what if, and it is one of the questions, and we're going to save it for the last one. So hang around for that. But first, we're going to listen to or hear from Bet Online, and then we'll kind of dive into these what if questions. So, Bet Online, obviously, the football season is over, but you have your basketball season, which is in full steam ahead mode in both pro and college hoops. March Madness. We are in March, so it's
Mm-hmm.
officially March Madness. Even though the tournament hasn't started yet, it's officially March Madness, if you ask me.
Time to get mad.
That's right. That's the thing. I'm always angry. Uh, from all the latest odds, totals, player performance props to where the next fired coach is going to land, betonline.net is the number one spot for all of your sports betting needs. It remains the best location for your sports scores, podcasts, and news for this season. And it's not just basketball. Betonline.net is your source for the NHL, boxing, and UFC. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and all of the action. That is betonline.net, and it's where the game starts. So playing the what if game is it's fun because
Mm-hmm.
you can always look at alternate realities that could have happened, and
Marvel made a series out of it, so
they did. Yes, let's check it out. So and some of these are looking in the past and saying what if, and then a couple are looking into the future and saying what if. So I think it's good to do both of those.
mm-hmm.
So some people might say like I don't want to look in the past and say what if, but we're gonna do it. So
You
just
betcha.
yeah, you're gonna have to deal with that. And I think we should start with the big question. What if the Avs do pull this thing off this year? This from last year to this year, you could really say this is like cup or bust for this
Mm-hmm.
for this franchise. And this year seems even more so than last year. Last year with the shortened COVID season, I'm not saying you give them a pass because everybody's in the same situation, but this is your first real 82 game season in a little while. And now you are expected to go win this thing. And big picture, what if they do win it? What does that mean for this franchise in terms of, does it become a place that you can lure free agents in because number one, you've won the cup. Number two, you show no signs of slowing down. Like you could still go out and win a few more. And is the appeal of the Colorado Avalanche, does it cast a wider net if they can win this thing this year?
I say absolutely because of a couple factors. This is the first year on ESPN TNT, brand new eyeballs looking at your sport. And if the Avalanche win the championship and win the cup this year, this is a whole new fan base that says, "Oh, these guys are good." And I love you, Adam. Like I'm going to say this now. Avalanche could be the first actual Stanley Cup champion we've had in 3 years. Now, look, I say this because there are those detractors like Montreal say, well, it was a shortened season. Everybody's got their excuse, like it was a bubble.
Yeah.
Like everybody has their little excuse to take your little dig at the Lightning.
Yeah.
You take all the excuses out of the season this year, 82 games, full playoffs,
Yeah.
everything is right back to normal. So you take all the excuses and all the things that everybody says, well, Tampa did it because the Avalanche can show you why we did it.
Mm.
It takes all those excuses out of the way. If
Yeah.
they win it this year, it's a statement win.
Yeah. There are some people that just feel like, yeah, we haven't had a true Stanley Cup winner
Yeah.
in a couple of years. I'm not one of those guys.
Uh,
I'm everybody's on the same playing field, and everybody
mm-hmm.
had the opportunity to win it. But it is kind of a funny conversation to have, and see
Yeah.
Tampa Bay fans squirm when you mention
Yeah.
that. But I mean, the fact remains is, yeah, we haven't had an 82 game season in a little while, and it is nice to get back to that. So, I always think of the Golden State Warriors. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Just a team that nobody pays attention. I should say nobody paid attention to. Like, yeah, they had their streaks every once in a while. When they got Chris Webber in the draft, they kind of
Yep.
like, well, they traded for him, but um, that's a small market team that all it takes is one guy to turn that thing around, and everybody wants to go play for them now. And
We used to be.
yeah, oh,
We had
absolutely,
Paul
yes,
Correa and Timu Solani wanting to get back together one more time just to play with Sakic and Forsberg.
yeah, right. So, and I kind of feel like, is Nathan MacKinnon or even Cale Makar like
Mm-hmm.
the Steph Curry of hockey? And if they can, rattle off, a Stanley Cup win the way that the team is constructed now, you have a lot of contracts expiring. You might become that. You might
Mm-hmm.
become that small market. They're not small market. They're a mid market team,
Mm-hmm.
but a destination. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like it could very well happen. Where the eyes turn to. I think it's happening anyway
Yeah.
within the hockey community, and teams are recognizing, players are recognizing what's going on.
Yeah.
When you have that extra chip on your shoulder, and you have that extra, um, bargaining chip of, we won the cup, and just imagine if we could do it with you, said player. Like,
Yeah.
It does. It does. It has some extra appeal for teams. So I think it's only big things happening from here on out for the Avalanche for a little while.
Yeah.
Having said that, or if you guys say something else, go ahead.
No, I mean,
Um,
players around the league talk about Cale Makar, watching him as like a fan. So
mhm.
wouldn't you want to play with Cale Makar and get one more cup? Just saying.
Yeah, and that could be it too. Like those veteran players
Yeah.
that haven't won a cup. Like that's why we're hearing Claude Giroux's name getting thrown
Mm-hmm.
around. So, having said that, what is kind of leads into this? We've heard, he said it a couple of years ago, Nathan MacKinnon, when talking about his contracts. It's the best contract in the history of sports. And it's running out after next year. He did make a comment. This is over a year ago now, a couple of years ago, where he said, when he signed that contract, that was his value.
Mm-hmm.
He had not taken off to the stratosphere he's on right now. But when this current contract expires, he did say, he goes, I would take less. I
Yeah.
would take less again if it meant whatever, bringing more, that would be incredible for a
Mm-hmm.
superstar player to do that. Number one, I don't think he is. I don't think the Avalanche are. But what if? He's making, I think, like 6.5 right now, or something like that, 6.4 or something. What if he says, I'm fine making that? And that gives us incredible flexibility to bring in other players. What if he does that?
I think honestly, the deeper this year gets, like closer we get to the playoffs, I think Nathan MacKinnon, the way the league is shaping up, like I think Nathan McKinnon's on the cusp of becoming like the LeBron James of the NHL, where he has the ability to say,
Ooh, tread lightly. Tread lightly.
he has
Go
the
ahead.
ability to say, I'm taking 6.5 again on this contract, and we're not going to win just one, but we're going to win two and three. And then
Yeah.
this is going to be like the new thing. Superstars taking less to bring in, hey, Sid, you want one more? Come on in, take less. Hey, uh, insert star here. Hey,
Yeah.
Zdeno Chara, you want one more? Come on.
Oh no, I don't need
Like
Chara at 50
you
years old.
just loaded up. Hey, what's league min? You were going to retire 750,000. Come on in.
Yeah.
Just and then
I mean,
he's on that cusp. If you take less, you can do more.
you can, and who always did this was Tom Brady.
Yes.
Up until when he went to Tampa, and Tom Brady was getting paid. Don't get me
Mm-hmm.
wrong, but he understood like what it takes to bring in players. He still made bank. Don't get me
Mm-hmm.
wrong, but he could have commanded much more than he wanted. As much as I dislike Tom Brady, I give him a lot of credit in that aspect. I don't think Nathan MacKinnon is going to say, "Yeah, just give me 6.5 million again." I think he's going to want to be at least the highest paid player on this team,
Mm-hmm.
and that will entail him being near $10 million a
Yeah.
year to beat Mikko Rantanen out. But on the flip side, I genuinely don't think he cares to have that title. I don't. I think he will,
Yeah.
but he doesn't play for that. He doesn't play to be I'm the richest guy in the Avalanche. He doesn't. Um, I think he will be. I think he deserves to be.
Mm-hmm.
But could I see him say like, "I'll take 8 or 8.5"? That's more feasible to me than him
Yeah.
saying like, "I'll take less and stay at like 6.5." I could see him. I think he wants an increase. I think he wants to be, if not higher than Mikko, in the Landeskog Mikko range with money. And if that's the case, say he falls in between those two, that still helps the Avalanche out a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
If
They have
he
nobody on the roster that's making $10 million a year. That's good.
yeah. If he goes out there and says, I'm not going to make more than my captain, and makes just under Gabe and says that verbatim, I will get McKinnon tattooed on my back.
I think, and would he not do that? I could
Yeah.
absolutely see him doing that. I really could.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that, I really see the Avalanche saying like, no, we're not taking any chances with you. We're offering you 10 million a year. I could see that too. There's so many outcomes to this that I could see.
Yeah.
But that's why it's such a good question, because
Mhm.
he wants to win a cup. Now, if they win the cup this year, that throws a wrench into things because then he's like, all right, we won the cup. Now you're going to have to pay me.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll keep a close eye on that. All right, a couple more to get to, but we also have to get to Rock Auto. So let's hear from Rock Auto. And with the ever increasing number of makes and models, it's impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts that you need. So why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brands that their warehouse happens to carry? You have a computer with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. Excuse me. Save time and money using Rock Auto. It's a family-run business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. The prices at Rock Auto are reliably low for every customer. So you can go explore their easy-to-use website today and find the solution to your auto parts needs. Go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or truck right locked on in the How Did You Hear About Us section so they know that we sent you to them. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need at rockauto.com. All right. We talked about Nate and kind of going hand in hand now when you talk about Nathan MacKinnon. You're going to talk about Cale Makar. To me, he's the front runner to win the Norris. But what if he does win the Norris? And I guess, how do you want to phrase this? What if he comes in top 3 in the Hart voting? What does that do to Cale Makar's superstardom, basically?
I think of all the what ifs we've talked about so far, I think this one could be a win he wins the
Mm.
Norris and gets top 3 in the Hart. Especially if you go back and look at his stats, what he's been contributing this year, and we talk about it all the time. Like analysts are getting bored talking about Cale Makar, so they put him up there with a legend when they're talking about or a Hall of Famer. He's going to
Mm.
get up there in that top 3, and eyeballs are going to shift to him because he's playing positionless hockey. He plays
That's a good way to describe it. Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
he's scoring like a forward, playing defense like the top defenseman in the league. Like he's playing positionless hockey, and it's going to be like he's going to throw a wrench into what is the Hart, what is the Norris, because he's going to start checking the boxes for all of them. He's going to be up for every award other than the Vezina.
He's gonna be up for Coach of the Year too. GM of the Year. Yeah, I mean he's getting to the point of, he's on the covers of video games.
Yeah.
Like, and that's a big deal. It really, you talk about Madden all the time, and
Hmm.
players get upset when their rating is not where they think it should be. It's because it's a big deal to them. Video games are billion-dollar industry, multi-billion-dollar industry, and when you're on the cover of one, you've reached another level. I think that's how, like, we were getting mad when Nathan MacKinnon is getting
Hmm.
overlooked for the. Do you think Cale Makar gets a NHL NHL cover before Nathan MacKinnon does? There's a question.
Abs- I think he does because honestly, I think he's going to have that career like when it started out and he break a video game the way Michael Vick broke Michael Madden.
Right.
They're going to have to reconfigure the game to animate Cale Makar because your typical computer defenseman doesn't play like Cale Makar.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, and I think his appeal is more than McKinnon for
Hmm.
some reason. I just feel like Cale Makar is more liked than Nathan MacKinnon. And maybe it's because McKinnon plays with that, that edge
Yeah,
where and you're in awe of him, obviously. But I think some people are rubbed off by like his attitude.
yeah,
But Cale Makar just has that like just silky smooth style, and a lot of people like that. And
yeah,
he still has that boyish looks to him where he's
yeah,
very unassuming, and he just seems like a nice guy, and that a lot of people like that in their athletes. So I don't know. I just feel like he's becoming slowly a more and more household name. And you hear the ovation he got at the All-Star game? That was in
yeah,
Vegas.
yeah,
He got a huge ovation from that crowd. So I just feel like he's well liked around the league, around fan bases. Um, and if he can do that, I threw out this question a while ago. What if he wins a Hart? I think he's at some point in his career. I think he's going to, and it could be sooner rather than later. I
Yeah.
think he's got the Norris. I do. And there's other very good defensemen in this league, and we've talked about him. And it's going to be a really good vote to see. I just feel like he's got the Norris on lockdown right now.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he's got that, and I do. I think he is going to get some serious consideration for the Hart when it's all said and done. And if that happens, you've reached a whole nother ball game in how this league will market you. And that's
Yeah.
the other side of it. We're talking about, the face of video games. He's going to be one of the faces of the league. He's going
Yeah.
to be up there with the McDavids and the Matthews and Ovechkins and stuff like that. It's going to happen.
And if Nate does take less and this does become a destination team, doubling up on the what ifs we've talked about so far, he could be up for Rocket Richard. Like, if he could just get out
Nah,
there and not
that's
have to, I'm talking his scoring potential. If he
yeah.
knows he doesn't have to cover all of these positions and do all of these Cale Makar things, if Cale Makar could just go out there unleashed, he could start messing with some scoring titles.
I mean, that's a big ask. That's for goal scoring though.
Yeah.
I don't. You really think he'd lead the league in score in goal scoring?
There's a point where you get
I don't
so
know.
bored being so good at what you do that you try something new. He's got that potential. You've seen him off a face-off. Like his slap
Well,
shot has eyes.
I'll say this: like it's not in every single game he's getting opportunities to score.
Yeah.
So goals, not just points,
Mm-hmm.
goals. But I mean, God, if a defenseman led the league in scoring goals like that, you're the greatest ever to do. So I don't know.
Mark it now.
That's
We'll be talking
yeah.
about this in about 2 or 3 years.
Okay, dude, I will be the first one to admit defeat on that if that ever happens. I would love to see it. All right, let's get to there's one that we're gonna have to shelf, which we'll do for another time. But for this one, we kind of saved the best for last. So, what if this team not only gets the franchise record in points for a season, but does go on to win the cup? I know we kind of referenced that in the beginning, but if they win the cup and in the process get the points, the most points in franchise history for a season, are they the best team in franchise history?
Honestly, I without any doubt, this is going to be this generation's, like how we could sit here and go Sakic, Forsberg, Deadmarsh, Foot, like we can rattle off that whole team.
Right.
You're going to do that with this team. You're going to go Gabe, Miko. This is the new generation of the golden era of the Avalanche. Like the Avalanche we fell in love with, there are going to be kids today that say, I grew up wanting to be Nathan MacKinnon. I wanted to be Cale Makar. I wanted to be Gabe Landeskog.
Mm-hmm. That is true. That is absolutely true. There's so many players on the team to fall in love with, like we did with the team from the mid '90s to the early 2000s. That's absolutely true. There's definitely parallels there. If they were to get the franchise record for points, they'd have to best 118 points. That on itself is incredible. Just looking at that, having 119, 120 points is amazing. I always hesitate to throw a team in the best of category like immediately, like right after a season is over, and if they win it, a lot of people want to just catapult them to like right to the top because emotions are running high, and you always want to do that. So I hesitate to really like put them there. They will be there. They will be in that conversation. You cannot deny that. If they are up there in if they best them in points, or even if they're in the vicinity, say they fall short by 2 points, say they get 116 or 117, are we still going to like deny them being one of the best in franchise history because of that? There would be some purists who say, no, you need both of them. Okay, that's fine. I get that. That's your metric. Okay. But I would, where is the league as a whole? Is the league more difficult now than it was then? Two different eras,
Yeah.
fewer teams, but the talent level from top to bottom is better. But different era. That's the dead puck era. Shameless plug.
Hey.
So it's different, and that's where it's always tough, no matter the sport, to compare what's happening today in sports to what's happening or what happened 30, 40, 50 years ago.
You do know if the Avalanche follow my prediction for this month, we'll break the point record by the end of March.
Just this month.
Like if you drop one regulation loss and you get a point in every other game.
Is it? Yeah. What are you up to? I mean, they're at 82 right now.
They're at 82 right now, and we have, I think it was 16 games.
You're around. Yeah. So if you won, there's
because they dropped one in overtime in January, I think it was.
Yeah. So you'd be around there. You'd be pretty close. You'd be pretty. Yeah. April would just be like you're playing with Monopoly money.
I mean, this is we're talking about greatest of all time, and we're the possibility of flirting with the all-time point record by the end of March.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, you are in the conversation, and I think it's a short conversation between the teams that won the cup.
Mm-hmm.
Where would they rank? Man, it's tough. That's you'd almost have to put them up there. You really would. And I know a lot of people are like, no, you're messing with my Sakic and my Forsberg and my Wall. All right, but what these
I will tell you, if this team wins the cup this year, they now are the second best. You can debate the 2001 team all day long, but they beat that first Avalanche team that won the cup.
See, and I like that first Avalanche team just because
I do too.
A great story. You know what I
mean? It's a great team, great story. You would have to be like 1A, 1B with that 2001 team because of the Ray Bort storyline and everything.
I know.
But they are right there.
They are. But we'll have to revisit that when this season is all said and done, and maybe we can have that debate. That's what I want. I want to have that debate. But in order for that to happen, the Avs got to win the cup. So you take care of going to win the cup, and we'll take care of discussing where you fit in the pantheon of Avalanche teams.
We got you, fam.
All right. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap it up for today. Let us know what you think. Any of those kind of pique your interest in how you feel about what we were talking about. Definitely let us know. I'd say send an email, and you always can do that, but the discussion is usually on YouTube where a lot of people throw their opinions around, which I absolutely love. So we all have our opinion on this stuff. So throw it out there. But for now, that's going to wrap it up. Let's see if the Avs can get a win against the Islanders. Let's hope that they can. Kyle and I will be back tomorrow to discuss that and anything else that happens. Maybe a trade's going to happen. I don't know. Nothing seems to be going on, which is surprising me. So
calm before the storm.
Yeah. And maybe if we stop talking about it, something will happen. So, all right. That's going to wrap it up. He's Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We'll see you guys tomorrow.